very pleased to introduce Congressman Joyce from the great state of Pennsylvania and one of our champions. And so we're looking forward to a great conversation.
Thank you, Chip. Great to be with you here today.
Congressman, you're from
Central Pennsylvania. So, and I know Crown Castle is here. Thank you for what you're doing in Central Pennsylvania. My district starts in Gettysburg, goes out to the Flight 93 Memorial. So it's South Central to Southwestern Pennsylvania on the Mason-Dixon line. So 5 of the counties on Maryland's border and another 6 or 7 counties just north of that.
I have a quick story to tell. Right after I left Congress, I represented a company called Spread Networks. And my job was to get permits across the great state of Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
And Spread Networks was led by, or the primary investor was Jim Barksdale. And Jim Barksdale, y'all may remember his name. He was COO of FedEx, then McCall Cellular, and then he was Google before Google. He was the CEO founder of Netscape. And so he's one of Mississippi's famous native sons, and we're very proud of him. But he had this idea that if he could cut 100 miles off the most comparative fiber route between New York and Chicago, he could shave about 3 milliseconds, and he could have the arbitrage of high-frequency trading, and he could make a lot of money. And the big test, though, was getting across Pennsylvania, which was the hardest. And finally, and Jim Barksdale's great-great-grandfather was Battle Barksdale, who led the 11th Confederate troop across Gettysburg. And he finally said, I finally crossed Pennsylvania, and I took all the money out of the North and brought it home. And so,
wow, what a great story.
Yeah, but it's an it's an illustration of the permitting, the challenges of getting fiber networks across tough places. And you've been a champion for us, in particular, on how do we cross the railroad. It is a barrier and a dividing line for a lot of our communities and a lot of our states and areas. And too many times, it is a high cost charged by the railroad, and it can take up to 18 months and long, long delays. Talk a little bit about your rail legislation, what you're doing to help the broadband and fiber industry cross the railroad tracks and get to the homes and the businesses and the communities across the country.
Well, Chip, that's a great lead-off discussion. But it's thanks to you. It's thanks to all of you from your input, telling us about this high cost. South Central Pennsylvania, 11 of the 12 counties have rail, significant rail that traverses all the nooks and crannies, all the hills and hollers. But the impediment, because of your need to go either under or across the rail to be able to expand those connections that we so desperately need. We need those connections, but we're doing this legislation with your input, with the understanding of the challenges that you face to do this. And we're not doing that in a silo, because we can be effective if we listen to you and what that impact, what those slowdowns occur. And we're also doing it with the Senate, with Senator Lujan and Senator Blackburn, so that we have legislation that reflects what you in industry see as those impediments from rail, and we can pass that legislation on the House side with a Senate side as well and have that signed into law. My district needs you to be able to cross that rail. You need to be able to effectively cross that rail. Where I live in Central Pennsylvania, there is something called the Horseshoe Curve. It's a curve that was built by Irish immigrants before suspension bridges. So it hugs the mountain. They carved the stone out, and it's in the shape of a horseshoe. It was on Hitler's bombing list during World War II because it really would sever the ties from east to west to transport the steel that was used in construction. But right now, railroads are being part of the impediment to allow my constituents to have the broadband that they need. I respect rail. Both of my grandparents worked in rail. But we need to work with rail to be able to allow you to have a cost-effective way to be able to do that. And that's what this legislation will solve. That's what we're looking to do. We're looking to be able to work with you to understand how we can move that broadband development through areas like I represent in Pennsylvania. We're doing this so my constituents have better connectivity.
we're grateful. It's not always easy to go up against the railroad, and they have a long history in Congress. And so your willingness to bring them to the table, to try to work across industries to achieve a national objective of broadband to everyone, but to districts like yours. And so thank you for your leadership and bringing together a bipartisan, bicameral effort. We're going to be on the Hill tomorrow advocating for the legislation that we hope that you can soon drop. I know that we're close.
Right, we are very close.
Any sense of timing?
I think as opposed to answering that with giving you, and you know what it's like as a legislator, a date to do this, we want the right piece of legislation. We want something that both Senators Lujan and Blackburn feel that can pass on the Senate side. We want to have this crafted to the expertise that's necessary to achieve this. And when you're on the Hill tomorrow, on the House side, we're going to adjourn today. So you're not going to see a whole lot of us around. But the one thing that I always emphasize in these situations, you're going to see these smart, smiling, happy young faces. Those are the individuals who craft the legislation. And let them know a couple of things when you sit down with them. Let them know you vote. Let them know your spouse votes, and let them know your employees vote. Let them know how important this legislation is to you and to those that you are bringing to the table. It's an important thing. When my staff, and you'll see them, they're all lined up there in the back, and they are those smiling, happy faces that really make my job easier to achieve. Give them one of your cards. Put your cell phone number on. I see someone who's done that. Put your cell phone number and say, hey, if the member has a chance, I'd really appreciate a phone call. Let them know that you are in the office, and let them know how important this legislation is.
As we look at the barrier of railroads and what they represent to a lot of the people deploying the fiber and the broadband networks that are connecting not only the homes, but to the data centers. I know that the House Energy and Commerce Committee last year had a major permitting reform initiative. There's talk of another major permitting reform. Kind of talk through what you see are the possibilities on the fiber, the broadband, but also on the other critical infrastructure, what we call the AI infrastructure, energy transmission pipelines. And as those networks meet at the data center on one side, our fiber networks are meeting on the other side.
I think it's a great question because it is critical that we address permitting reform. The overarching ability to rein in some of the regulations that impede you from bringing internet capabilities to my district. Let's look at how important that is. If there's a silver lining to COVID, it's that individuals have now embraced telemedicine. But my constituents can't do that. They don't have the ability to connect. So you're providing healthcare at one level. The other level is for students in education. And when Brandon Carson came to Pennsylvania's 13th Congressional District, he sat down, and one of the big influences, we did a roundtable, and we had industry present there. We had agriculture present because of precision agriculture, farmers saying we can't utilize this expensive equipment that we've purchased because we don't have the capabilities for broadband. You know what resonated with now the FCC chair is the teachers who said, we know which kids don't have broadband at home. It's not like when my kids came in from school, you'd rifle through their backpack, you'd figure out what their homework was, you'd do the assignment, and they'd go off to practice or play. Now parents are expected to log on to see what progress their kids have made that day, what their assignment is for tomorrow. And the teachers know which kids do not have that access. We have kids that are a year to a year and a half behind in reading and math scores because of COVID. And those without internet are falling further behind. Those without the connectivity that you are providing are falling further behind. That resonates to me as a legislator, and I was really glad it resonated with who is now the FCC chairman. We have to be able to, from a government point of view, remove the regulations that stop you from doing your jobs and doing your jobs effectively, whether it's dealing with rail or whether it's dealing with what last week Chairman Richard Hudson brought out the Speed for BEAD Act. The Speed for BEAD Act, what it really does is it removes the burdensome regulations, and it deals with the labor requirements that don't allow you to set the wages in conjunction with what the market bears. Look, in Bedford, Pennsylvania, in South Central rural Pennsylvania, you shouldn't have bureaucrats in Washington telling you what you pay your linemen to be able to do this. The market should bear what the market bears. I'm a free market guy, and I feel that that's so important. And these are areas where we can have impact. And the Speed for BEAD Act is something that should be able to pass in a bipartisan fashion, because we don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. We want you to be connected. We want you to have those opportunities to expand your business, to have your kids learn, to be able to have farmers use the equipment that they've purchased, and to be able to heal from home with telemedicine. This is an opportunity that allows us in the legislative body to advocate for our constituents, but we can't do that without the input from you.
So as you look at BEAD and Energy and Commerce Committee, you had mentioned that had the hearing on speed to BEAD. Some questions are, will the $42.5 billion made available, authorized, will that still be there for the states? Are you simply, is Congress trying to direct the acceleration of the funding and the acceleration of the build and the acceleration of the connectivity? Or is there some risk of bringing some of that money back? And I think any insight that you could give us on the funding side and the speed side in combination?
It's a great question. I don't look to bring that money back. I look to see that money being rolled out so it's effectively used in the areas where it's so desperately needed. I don't have that appetite to roll that back at this point in time. I think that we have to be able to roll back the overregulation that I mentioned that will allow you to do that. Brandon Carson, who is the broadband executive in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, he understands that. There are so many applicants, probably in this room, who want to put up and expand broadband in Pennsylvania. We need you. We need you to be able to do that. But the only way we're going to be able to do that is to roll back the regulations that stifle you from being able to do that. So I brought a prop along with me because I know these things get long. I have to tell you this, there's not this much of any type of wire that's been put down yet. It hasn't occurred. There is no shovels in the ground. And so when someone brought this in, and Reagan Harrison, who's my communications legislative assistant, it's one of the smiling faces in the back, I said, I'm going to use a prop, because had you not brought me this, I wouldn't be able to say, look, this bead, you've got miles of this being put down. The next time I talk to you, I want to hear about those projects, about miles of this being put down. I think it's so important. I want you to be able to work with railroad to put this under or over the rail to be able to connect my district. I want you to be able to come back and say, hey, Doc, we see, and this is what you need to know is going on in Pennsylvania. But right now, it's in my pocket because it isn't being utilized, because government has overregulated you. Government has put those restrictions for you to be able to effectively use your job. We have told you how much you need to pay labor, whereas the market should bear how much you pay your labor. What someone is paid in Philadelphia is not what someone is paid in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The market, again, bears what should be paid. And the individuals who come into the rural areas, who go into the hills and hollers, to go into the nooks and crannies, to be able to provide my constituents with that connectivity, you know what your labor requires. And sometimes it might be higher than government tells you, and sometimes it might be lower. But again, government bureaucrats shouldn't be making that decision. The market should be making that decision. I do want to get back to something that you had mentioned, because again, we're talking about Pennsylvania, where 3 Mile Island has recently undergone the recommissioning process with Constellation Energy. And they already have a contract with Microsoft. And I think there's some people from Microsoft here as well today. Thank you. We want to see more innovation. We want to be able to see that. And when Joe Dominguez, the CEO of Constellation, just told me in the past 2 weeks that they are a year ahead of schedule, music to my ears to be able to hear how important that is. We have to be able to utilize that. China is chomping at the bit to be able to lead the world in data center development. And artificial intelligence is dependent on those data centers. I look forward to Pennsylvania being the lead position for that. And I look forward to Microsoft looks for other locations in Pennsylvania to be able to continue to expand. The co-location to be able to have the energy sources, which we all recognize that wind and solar do not provide the baseload power. So using nuclear and refurbishing 3 Mile Island a year ahead of schedule is what we need. The jobs, the family sustaining jobs that come behind that are all what my constituents want to be able to see. And we look forward to additional development. Pennsylvania is right now, it's really on the cusp of being the golden age of Pennsylvania. And that is because of all the energy sources that are under the feet of my constituents, whether it's natural gas or the ability to use nuclear. We look forward to be able to bring those data centers to Pennsylvania. And we look forward to you being able to provide the wires, the lines, the connectivity that they need. They can't function without you. You know that. But you can't function without the energy supplies to be able to build these. And it's an exciting time in Pennsylvania. And yeah, I'm going to use that term. You're going to hear it a lot. We're looking for the golden age in Pennsylvania, mainly because of the energy sources that we have access to.
You know, Congressman, what we at INCOMPAS traditionally telecommunications technology. In the age of AI, we've expanded our membership, created an AI competition center to bring in new energy companies, small modular nuclear reactors, gas pipeline companies like Williams, that both natural gas plants, pipelines, renewable companies. So we want the full stack of energy, all of the above energy, all of the above AI, all of the above broadband, meeting at the data center, empowering the age of AI and winning the race against China. Your work is critical to winning that race and serving our communities and the economic development that will flow from it. And we are very grateful for your leadership.
Chip, I'm going to conclude with your work is critical because we cannot beat China in this regard without unleashing the skill sets of all of those here present today. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to have this discussion with you.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to working. And thank you for the rail legislation.
Thanks.